Welcome back, you guys. I'm in EFC. This is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm joined by two great guests, Matisse Armani and Son of Chelsea. Tonight, we're going to be discussing everything Kai Havertz. We're going to discuss how he's started the season. We're going to discuss our hopes for him throughout the season, and we're going to discuss some of the criticisms against him as well. So I hope you guys do enjoy. We're going to go in deep, and without wasting any more time, let's get straight in with today's video. So I'm going to ask you guys, how are you finding Havertz's start to the season so far? Starting with you, Daniel.
I think you have to be relatively pleased. I'm not going to go overboard and say I think he's been, disappointing. I think there needs to be an understanding that this is a long-term investment in Kai Havertz and not a short-term investment. We didn't buy him for 9 months. We bought him hopefully for 6 to 7 years to hopefully be as good at Eden Hazard. And I still feel that comparing him to Eden Hazard, I think it is a good reflection, really, and a good comparison, because Eden's first year wasn't exactly exhilarating. It wasn't reaching the heights of his later years at Chelsea. And I think, the COVID, unfortunately, positive test recently that ruled him out of a couple of games. I think you need to take that into consideration. And maybe he's still struggling with some match fitness at the moment. I think we've seen some really promising signs from him. I think that the good thing at the moment is, and I think this is the case for some players, a few players at Chelsea at the moment, is we're playing well, we're getting wins. And whilst other players are maybe betting in like Kai, we still seem to be getting points on the board. So hopefully, by the second half of the season, he'll be a lot more improved and a lot more impactful.
I definitely agree. And I think with COVID as well, we can't forget what it does to people's respiratory systems. Pogba came up recently in an interview saying that, having COVID, it took him even longer to get back to full fitness because, all your breath is gone, all your air is gone. You can't, play with that same intensity. So for me, it seems clear, because obviously Kai hasn't finished the game yet, that Lampard is getting his fitness back again, because for this period now, he's going to be so key, because now that Ziyech is injured, I'm hoping it's not going to be too much of a mad one. But with hamstring ones, you're thinking at least to be safe a month for him to get back to full top fitness. Kai will have to be one of those players that has to, help the team towards this push we're currently on. And Matisse, do you feel that maybe it's a bit too soon for us to be having these expectations on Kai to, possibly start leading the team more?
Yeah, I think we've had so many signings come in one window. We can't expect them all to blow up at the same time. You've got Thiago Silva who's hit the ground running, Chilwell's hit the ground running. Werner's still got a very good goal ratio for minutes as well. He's come in and been good. So I think Kai, he's young. He's in a new league. Him and Werner spoke about it when they joined after their first game, I believe, where they said, the physicality of this league is completely different. But for me, as you said before, with youngsters, the pros and cons with Kai, there's so many pros. The versatile player that can play in maybe 3 different positions, played false nine during the back end of last season for Leverkusen. He can score with his head as well. He's got the dribbling ability, he's got the passing range, and he also can get back into shape and defend for the team, which is why Lampard got him as well. You won't see Lampard buy any. People call him a luxury player. You won't see Lampard buy any.
Nah, exactly.
That's not Lampard was built on himself.
Of course, it's that simple. I feel like when Lampard speaks, he makes himself very clear in his press conferences, and I think sometimes people read between the lines unnecessarily at times. At that point you said earlier about Kai, Leverkusen, false nine. I wanted to pose this question to you guys. Even though he signed for big money, he was at the biggest talking point this summer, the biggest transfer story this summer. At the same time, at Leverkusen, he hasn't played in a set position. He's played on the right flank, left, up front as a 10. He's played in midfield too. And maybe this might play its part in regards to why maybe Kai isn't consistently, showing his form across an entire season. Right now, of course, he's still young, only 21 years old, and he just recently turned 21, I think. You can't expect maybe a player that young to have his position set for him already, because I think at the same time, when you play different positions, you do learn. And you look at players in the past, look at Henry, how he first started to how he ended. Look at how, what's another example of Wayne Rooney, the amount of positions he's played. You can go on. And a part of me is feeling, okay, we signed Kai Havertz this season because, for the first time, there's a plan behind how you want him to progress, and it seems like this plan is for Kai to be this like auxiliary midfield player down the right hand side. And I think that will take naturally some time for him to fully get used to, on top of the fact that, he's playing in the Premier League and he still has to acclimatise.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Kai as well, that I think is a good point to make, is that, at Bayer Leverkusen, he was the main man. He was the guy that team was built around. It's completely different at Chelsea. He's come into a setup here where there's so many different players you can look at to star on one weekend. Some weekends it's going to be Hakim Ziyech, other times it could be Christian Pulisic, it can be Olivier Giroud, Mason Mount, sometimes Reece James. There's so many players you can look at in this Chelsea team and be excited about, and that's going to be different. And maybe that's you'd think it maybe benefit Kai, but maybe in the early times at Chelsea, it's actually a bit of a struggle. That sort of mindset change, that you're no longer the star man, that the whole team isn't built around you, and you're just another part of a really good team. You're no longer the big fish in a small pond. You're at the big leagues now, and there's some big players alongside him. So maybe there's that playing into it as well. And as you said, he's a very versatile player, and I think that's exciting for Chelsea, and that's why Lampard bought so many players this summer. With that ability to be versatile. So just because he's playing in that number 8 role now, think about Cover's form at the moment. He's becoming a bit undroppable. So you could see Kai with that Ziyech injury maybe shift out to that right wing and see how he does there. So there's flexibility within what Lampard's doing at the moment. And I actually think the consistency and sort of balance we have in our team now, I think helps a player who's maybe struggling a little bit more than others.
Just even touching on that point, fully agree. It's sort of like principles, and I think principles can unify everything, from the smallest things to the biggest things. And if we can say that with Mason Mount last season, he deserved all the critique because he wasn't playing in midfield, maybe we could have the same energy for Kai, because already he's played in that 10 role. He's played on the right flank, and I think he's played up front too at times as well. So and in midfield too as well. So he's already played 3 positions already, while he's still trying to acclimatise to a new country, new league. And we can't even forget, I think Kai said in the latest Chelsea YouTube video, Savage Jan and then man talking about how for the first month of his life, he was living in a hotel here. What do you mean the first month of his life? I said that's so wrong. But obviously when he came here, he was in a hotel for a month, not even having his own pad, his own place to come back to relax with the bay and unwind and just recollect his thoughts and get his energy. You know what I mean? So I think based on all these things happening right now, based on the fact that, one, he's still learning. Regardless of the money he cost, he didn't sign no complete player. 2, he's adapting to the country and football-wise and lifestyle-wise. And then 3, obviously COVID and these small knocks not helping in between.
I completely agree. And I think the thing is about Kai is that he's had pressure on him before. He's the main man at Bayer Leverkusen. He understands pressure, and that's what a lot of these players have in common that have come in. Ziyech was the main man for Ajax. Werner was the main man. In Germany. These guys have mentalities where they're not going to just fold. They're used to having pressure on them, and in fact, they've all got less pressure on them now because of the variety of goal scorers. But that's not that's a good thing. But it's also it means they've got the mentality to back it up. You know what I mean? So I don't worry about them going forward in terms of their long-term form or anything, because I just think they've got the mentality to get through these things that we're talking about here.
Okay, cool. So I feel like we on the same wavelength in regards to our position on Kai, and I think basically just having a bit more patience. Are we all? Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's no point wasting more time discussing that then. Let's discuss the positive things about Havertz and what he's brought. And, starting with you, Daniel, what have been some impressive parts and aspects of his game that's been wow, I can see why we spent this much money on him.
I think those runs from deep, obviously, trademark part of his game, and, the sort of thing that you want to see at Chelsea. We haven't seen tons of it, but, that Sevilla opening goal was a prime example of it. His mobility and then the vision to lay it off to Giroud. And, he had a lot of options there, and it may seem like a simple pass, but, I think that there's a lot of things with creative players where they'll make a really good pass, and if the striker doesn't finish it, people will instantly forget about that quality from the passer. So I think that Kai getting that assist there was very important, and it's those moments that do get you out of your seat with Kai. There are other moments too. I felt he's had good moments and seemed to him and Callum seem to have formed a good chemistry at points. I remember the West Brom game and also the Krasnodar away game. I think they both started and linked up for the first goal there. So there have been flashes of brilliance, right? But as you pointed out, with the mentality of the players we have, look at a player like Ziyech. He's in the prime of his career at 27, arriving at Chelsea. Kai is 21. He still has a lot of growing to do, just mentally as a player, as a person. It's completely different. Ziyech has been through the works basically as a player. He's right. He's basically almost a complete player now. Where he is in his career. It's a lot different. So I think that people need to take that into account as well. Look at Kevin De Bruyne when he arrived at Man City. He didn't hit the ground running instantly there either. He had a couple seasons where he had to find his place, but then eventually when he came with the right coach, with Pep Guardiola, it took about maybe his third or fourth season where he finally hit the ground running, and that was because of his age, just growing and getting better and getting used to the league. So I think that it's just about patience with Kaya, and you see those moments, right? And those moments are exhilarating, and you can see the player he can become, right? And I just think Chelsea did not invest the amount of money they did just for 3 months. This is a long-term investment, right? And it's just, it's about letting that talent grow. Because unfortunately, at Chelsea in the past, we haven't let talent like that grow, and we paid the price for it.
Beautifully said, man. Matisse, Kai Havertz, what aspects of his game have just been getting you gas?
Everything. And I can see such a complete player there. So that's why I really have no doubts. I mean, if you're coming up against a low block, I know he can pick out a pass through the eye of the needle. If you're coming up against, a team that, like Leeds, where there is a transition, unfortunately he didn't show it a lot, but he can make those long striding runs like a Loftus-Cheek did for us as well a few seasons back. He's got an eye for goal in different ways. He's got a shot on him, but also a heading ability. He's got a tall frame, but then he can glide. And defensively, he's good as well. That's really important in our midfield. We know how important it is to get back into shape. Mount does it very well after his first season. He's learned a lot in that regard, and Kai does it as well. He does press and he does win the ball, in an advanced position. So there is for me no weakness. So there's such a good foundation, and I've seen the way players like Cover have developed under Frank as well. In the midfield, I think under a midfielder like Frank, you can't go wrong with a midfielder like Kai.
100%. And it's just everything like Kai does. You're gonna see that Kai's got class. I think it's small details like how his body position is always open to just release that ball quick and keep that tempo going, and just that little added composure like we saw from the finishes against Barnsley. And it's Barnsley, but those finishes still displayed like what this guy's about, and how his temperament is just so cool in games. So you just know that with these attributes he has, the second his environment, body, everything's on point, he's gonna blow up. But if there was one thing I'd say right now, is that even though he is fitted in seamlessly in the midfield, maybe am I being a bit too basic for wanting to see maybe some more combo play between him and Mason Mount?
Yeah, I think we'd love to see that, right? But I think that takes time, right? And I think unfortunately some of the way in which certain signings we've made have really fitted in pretty comfortably. The likes of Ben Chilwell, the likes of Thiago Silva, Edouard Mendy, all players that are older than Kai Havertz as well. Makes you believe that you want to see that across the board, right? But I think as Matisse made the point, we made so many signings, they weren't always going to hit the ground running. I think there is a bit of that. I mean, statistically, he is a player that comes good in the second half of the season. I'm intrigued to see how that works in terms of us not having a winter break, as well with the likes of Timo Werner as well. But you got to take that into consideration as well, thinking about as we get into the later months, will Kai start to flourish then when he feels more comfortable at Chelsea? That's another thing to look at as well. So there have been moments where you want to see a little bit more. I was a little bit disappointed by his performance against Leeds, but I think I do need to, you need to give him time as well. If COVID and match fitness is a key thing that he's still struggling with. You got to understand that as well, right? And luckily Chelsea have got the squad depth to rotate in that area.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And now that Ziyech is out, maybe I have a feeling that Kai could potentially be scapegoat number 2 if if he doesn't get back to full speed as quickly as everyone demands. But I just think that we've seen the promise, we've seen some positive signs, and with a signing like this, he was never supposed to hit the ground running. It never really happens at all. Most big signings have needed at least a season, and I don't think it's going to be any different for Kai. So you guys, of course, great speaking football with you. In the comment section below, tell us how you feel about Kai. Do you feel that maybe some of the criticism is justified? Because to be honest, you guys, I mainly feel like I've been seeing this criticism coming from opposition fans. Is that just me?
Yeah, but they're trolling. I don't take them seriously.
Exactly, and the fact they are tells you everything you need to know, you guys, about how we are putting fears into managers, teams, and fan bases across the country as well. So right now really is the perfect time to be a Chelsea fan. And on that note, I'm gonna wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. I'm the EFC. This is Blue Line CV. You'll find Son of Chelsea and Matisse Armani's channels, details, everything in the description below and the scrolling text too. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.